now, the counselors and all of those right now becoming the main ones to talk about Islam, and right now the main speakers on Islam. Islam is, yes, it has one side of good job, good for you. We definitely need these motivational speakers, but we also need the structure to make sure that we understand our Islam right, to make sure that we're not confusing our visions, we're not confusing our visions and falling in different traps. That's extremely important to keep in mind. But Allah al-Musta'an, what we're seeing, like never before, I'm a woman just like you. But to be honest, like never before, just in my own family, just in my own family, we had a couple, or a few at least, leave Islam. We had a couple become LGBT. We had a couple actually get lost in zina and all of that. That was unprecedented, to be honest. But just within this year or the year before, we're seeing all of this actually get into women, mainly women. And it's very sad. Where did it come from? It really had come from a lot of misconceptions, a lot of delusion, a lot of presentation that was, I would say, given at a very elementary level in Islamic studies. And once we're at elementary level in Islamic studies, but so advanced in knowing about dunya, then certainly we're going to get swallowed up by dunya. Certainly, we're going to find ourselves that we're just so indulged in dunya because we're such a not even elementary level. We're still, unfortunately, sisters, I'm not saying this to make us feel bad, but I'm saying this to describe the situation that we're living in. We're really at a level, when you talk to a child and you grow with their development, there's a stage, early stage, when you're just encouraging them. Yes, good job. You could do this. You could wash your hands. You could simple things, but you're just continuously just encouraging them. There's at one point that they have to act responsibly and start doing their homework without you needing to mentor them to do it because they recognize the responsibility. And there's a point where they are doing their responsibility to recognize what they need to learn. So we're yet not even there, at least in the women's world. In the men's world, to be honest, in the men's world, they're actually great, I would say, great potentials out there. In the men's area, we're actually seeing a large number of men that are excelling exceptionally. And I must say, excelling exceptionally like never before. Like never before. I'm not saying that in the women's area there isn't. In contrast, I am saying that, yes, the majority is probably not at that area, but very few women are excelling and excelling exceptionally. And the women that are excelling exceptionally are finding a gap between them and the majority, and a huge gap. So you would have a woman with 10 qira'at and like, for example, Dr. Samia Harb, her potentials are not recognized really, are not recognized by them, by many women of what kind of a scholar she is. What kind of a scholar, and I tried to introduce her to many institutions and said, she would be a great asset. Take her from me. She's a great asset, please. This woman, we cannot just leave out there a beautiful blossoming flower and not make use of her potentials. We have to use her potentials to let the women learn Islam from its resources. But most organizations, no, we're looking for people to have many followers. We're looking for people that would get us more followers. Most organizations are not actually looking for quality potentials, let's say it that way. Most organizations are actually looking for other people that can get them more customers. That's the reality. Somebody like Dr. Samia Harb, for example, you would see an ijaza in 10 qira'at, you would see a person that has a degree from Jordanian University, PhD with an advanced level, somebody, charisma, all of that. But then, subhanAllah, if she wanted to go advanced and really go up to her potentials, she recognizes that many will probably never come back because she's way up there in the potential, and not everyone is capable of handling such patience to endure in order to go way up there in the light. It's too bright to be up there. It's too bright that many are not used to it, so they'll put their hand over their eyes and just cover it, and would rather to slip away than actually wait till their eyes dilate and be able to see something else. They don't want that. That dilation is going to be too hard. Too hard. So they'll put their hands over their eyes and just walk away like they can't see it, because to notice that, wow, there's this kind of brightness that I'm supposed to be getting to that I'm missing out on, it just makes you feel guilty. So you'd rather put your eyes and just slip away and go back to a dark spot where you don't have to put your eyes or your hands over your eyes and recognize. So you'd rather be comfortable in a dark space than sit there in a space full of light. That's so sad. That is so sad and so scary. And that's what's actually happening to many of those women, like Dr. Sanya Harb, like Dr. Muna as well. Dr. Muna, has a PhD with an honors in tafsir. And if she were wanting to do it the advanced way, same thing, many will not stay. So it's quite sad. It's quite sad to see in the women's area that we still, sorry, ladies, I don't want to say this to let us somehow lose our hope, but sometimes we have to lay out things and grow from the stage of wanting to be encouraged to right now saying, ladies, here's where we're at. Do you recognize the fitna that we're facing right now? We're right now seeing women leave Islam, seeing women become areas of zina. We're seeing women lose their deen for dunya. We're seeing the numbers grow like never before. Ladies, we've got a problem that we really need to diagnose. And we need to diagnose not because we want to feel bad, but because we need to be firm in seeking treatment. We need sometimes that diagnose to tell us, you really need to seek treatment. You need to go for 1, 2, 3 programs to help you get that treatment. You need to work on your aqidah and learn more. You need to work on your fiqh and you need to be structured. You cannot take a class and be absent 10. You need to be structured. And that's the same thing. You can't take a dose and leave 10 because you take a dose and you leave 10. Your body, guess what? It's going to overcome it. And it's like you didn't even take your medication. You take a dose and you leave 10. And you say, well, I was busy. I was this, if la samhallah, you got cancer. You cannot say, well, I'm busy. I can't keep up with my chemotherapy or radiation or whatever. You can't. There's a certain day that you have to come. You have to take this seriously. You have to take this seriously. There's nothing more important than your deen. You have to put it in within your schedule to learn your deen, to take your deen seriously. It's not an issue of when I have the potential, when I have the interest, when I have on the inside, I'm feeling that, oh yeah, I can spare a half an hour probably and just listen to something and feel so good that I was capable of listening to a class for half an hour or probably a reel for a minute or two. And I was so good today. Is this where we're at? If this is where we're at, then we are elementary in our level of consideration, in our level of development in our deen. We're really then immature in how we understand and how we hold on to our deen. This is really sad. I'm not saying that at all to start slapping our backs and start telling us, hey, we're really behind, you're so bad. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying we have great women out there like Dr. Samia Harb, like Dr. Muna. We have women with great potentials. But on the other hand, those are few, but on the other hand, we actually have majority that's not finding, or they're not actually making use of those great potentials. And this is extremely important to keep that in mind. Don't lose the opportunity to learn about your deen, because wallahi, the fitna that we're in is unprecedented. Wallahi, you could see it's paving for the Dajjal. Wallahi, it's paving for the Dajjal. It is unprecedented. So scary to actually see the amount of fitna that's confusing many women. Many women. And I'm speaking about the women because I'm seeing that the misconceptions, I'm not saying that the men are not going into misconceptions, but my job is to deal with the women. My job is to focus on the women. I know that that area is not covered enough. So I'm talking about that. Forget about the men. That yes, they've got their challenges, they've got their fitna. I'm not saying that they don't. Yes, of course they do. They've got a lot of things. The worst of those that are right now becoming the leaders of fitna are actually from the men. I know that. Okay? I know that. But my concern is when I would see simple misconceptions. I can understand when sometimes there can probably be a misconception that's probably requiring experts to answer such a misconception. But the misconceptions that I see the majority of women fall in are an elementary level misconception. Elementary level misconception, not even an advanced level of misconception. Most of it is nothing but confusing the narratives. There can be some misconceptions that require experts to answer. But if we're seeing that the majority are tripping within an elementary level misconception, well, wait, what if we were to get an advanced level misconception coming at you? What are you going to do then? We're talking about something, let's give another example. You're talking about a misconception where, similar like a small dajjal, if you'd want to say, a small dajjal. Then what are you going to do when if it's a big dajjal? If you're already failing in a smaller dajjal, are you really going to be strong enough when the real dajjal comes? And this is so scary. This is so scary. Of course, none of us, no one is going to be capable of standing in front of the dajjal. Simple as that. The Prophet said it straightforward. Don't even attempt to go and face the dajjal or debate the dajjal or somehow. Don't even bother. The Prophet said, just run away. Just go. Don't even bother. No matter what and how strong your faith was. Don't even bother and try to debate the dajjal or confront him in any way. And the Prophet was telling us, no, just go. Just go. Don't even attack. And subhanAllah, if we're seeing smaller dajjals, we're seeing elementary level misconceptions. Elementary level. Those are maskhara, literally ridiculous misconceptions. And they're falling in them. And it's like, oh boy, where are we at? When would somebody fall at an elementary level misconception? When their elementary level was not even passed. When somebody fails their elementary level, think of it as school. They didn't even pass first and second and third grade. They're not going to be capable of making it to sixth and seventh. We definitely need to work on their foundational educational skills before we would let them go to fifth and sixth grade and who knows what. This is foundational. Allah al-Musta'an. Sorry, ladies. I am optimistic because we do have some great sisters that really had shown magnificent skills, magnificent potentials, that they had definitely become a beacon within our society. But the source of light is not being, I would say, used by many to let them see it, to let them recognize it, to let them, I guess, make use of that light. And it's important that we would take the time to really be patient in seeking ilm, even if it's a level that we're probably finding that it's too advanced, it's too hard for me. Just memorize one hadith a week if you're capable. Just memorize just one. You're not capable of memorizing it in English? Memorizing it in Arabic? Memorize it in English. It's okay. Try to challenge yourself. Memorize that ayah, a surah. If you can't, it's too hard for you, at least take the time. Take the time to say, well, I'm going to at least take the notes, study the notes, and talk the notes out for myself. Here are the notes right in front of me, and I'm going to record the notes, and I'm going to record myself saying the notes. Why the part about saying? Because saying and repeating something is a form of dhikr. And when you look at dhikr, there's a special emphasis that Islam was telling you that it's not enough to know something, but you have to repeat it on and on. Repeat the same words. Repeat the same sentences. Repeat these words for your brain to hear them, your heart to acknowledge them, your soul to embrace. Keep that in mind. It's not enough. Yeah, I know that. I heard this information before. Why do I have to keep on repeating it? You're repeating it because the way that your brain learns is different than the way your heart learns, different than the way your spirit learns. Each one grasps this knowledge in a different way. Each one absorbs it differently. Brain collects data, but heart collects light. Spirituality absorbs that light in ways that is completely different. You know, when you look at different things that are around us, we could see that certain things can absorb light faster than others. You could see dark surfaces are different, and the way they would take the light is completely different than a bright surface. Each one takes the light differently. One absorbs it and it doesn't even show, and the other one would absorb the light and brighten all the world around it with it. Now, you have to look into that, where the Prophet ﷺ had actually said in the Hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that il-fitan, different trials, different challenges are exposed on our hearts. And then the heart would take it in, take it in. And then if it goes and penetrates the heart, it leaves a black spot. This black spot is what is considered the rust on the heart. And that's what that ayah was actually talking about in Surah Al-Mutaffifin. كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Verily. كَلَّا. Absolutely not. Verily not. Bal. As a matter of fact, their hearts were rusted by this black spot of rust that was filling their heart and keeping that space. Within their heart, nothing but dark. In other words, their ability to recognize as a result of what they had done. The ayah was clear. ما كانوا يكسبون. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. It's a result of what they had committed. It's a result of what they were doing. And therefore, you could see that it's going to be what's going to be affecting their ability to see, their ability to recognize the world around them, their ability to recognize dark from light, delusion from awareness. And then, on the other hand, those that would reject the fitna, the Prophet ﷺ says that the areas that did not accept the fitna, it becomes a place of light, a place of light. And then this place of light would basically radiate. And this becomes the area that helps them recognize the world around them through light. And this is important to keep in mind, because what you see in this hadith is that even our heart, could it be our actual heart that pumps blood? It could be. It could be. We don't have all the knowledge about everything, about how the body functions. We definitely know that there are neurons and different neural cells in our heart. But according to the Quran, that even the heart actually acts as not necessarily a place of data and recording data, but a place for processing certain data. And certainly, it can affect your ability to understand, to even be capable of distinguishing light from darkness. That's the heart. And then you've got your own spirit. It's different stages and passing through different stages. But our spirit is probably that area that's quite hard to understand sometimes, because we don't have much knowledge about it. Because the ayah was crystal clear. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلْ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They ask you about the spirit, and tell them that the spirit is from the matters and the secrets of the Lord Almighty. And the knowledge that you had received in revelation about the ruh is very minimal. It's very small. It doesn't even equip you with enough information to help you know all the details about this life, about yourself, about the world. So just to recognize one thing, that your ruh is this place that you as a human being, it's what keeps you alive. But it's that area that you don't have the power to know how is it that it's keeping me alive yet. It's the area that's basically right there, also responsible of making me know what life is. That's the relationship between you and Allah. It's your ruh. If that ruh, if that mind is busy, focused on this dunya, then the ruh would basically weaken to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because a ruh, it won't get strong on its own like that. You have to put in a number of different, let's call it, number of different electrical nodes and rods and number of different things in order to help it brighten. It doesn't work on its own like that. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was getting us into telling us, أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. He's telling us, you need to, I want you to first light those switches in your upper box. Once you light up those switches in the upper box, then you'll go into that chamber in your heart, and that chamber in your heart, I want you to turn that light on. Once you turn that light on, that's when you're capable of perhaps figuring out the switch that's going to turn on your spirit. Without that, you have to know that the switch to turn on, the switch to turn on your spirituality lies in your heart. Lies in your heart. There's no way that you can turn that switch on without going to your heart. There's no way. That's where it is. That's where the switch is. There's no other way. You have to go inside your heart. But if your heart is all full of darkness, then you're not going to be capable of seeing that switch. Takes us to ittiba' al-hawa. How do we get that light on? How do we get out of all of this? The Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was always warning us of ittiba' al-hawa. And what is ittiba' al-hawa? Ittiba' al-hawa is basically when one follows their own whims. What is al-hawa? Al-hawa has two meanings. Al-hawa could be what you enjoy, what you endure, what you love, what entertains you. That's al-hawa. You just feel that you just want it. It feels good. That's al-hawa. Al-hawa could also mean love. What you love, anything that you love, it's hawa. Al-hawa, another hawa, could really mean just the space, the vacuum, the space, the empty space, the air. I want you to see the correlation between the vacuum, the empty space, and the things that we love. You wouldn't feel that you need to take in something in consideration or seriously whenever you're living vacuum, whenever you're living just plain empty time, leisure time, free time. Once that free time overcomes you, then you'll have the feeling, the urge that you want to engage more and more entertainment. And this is important because what breaks al-hawa are a couple things. Number one, what breaks a person's hawa is pain. Whenever you're feeling ready to enjoy something because you've got the time to do so, if pain is there, it takes away your hawa. Because pain is actually stronger than any other feeling. It takes me away from my sleep. It wakes me up from my sleep. Pain wakes me up from anything. And in fact, it can even overcome my focus. I can't even focus on anything that I want. Even if I would see all the things that I would want to enjoy, if I'm going through pain, I cannot see anything. Two, death. هدم اللذات. Death, it takes away and it completely deconstructs your relationship with anything that you might be enjoying. It takes away the joy. It takes away that moment when you're probably feeling that I'm having fun. Death takes it away. Whether it's remembering death, or somebody, perhaps a relative, a loved one dies, and it just takes away your relationship with any joy. Now, using these two things, pain and death, are actually key to remember, and in order to take away and do this mentorship. Keep this one in mind. Do this mentorship, whether for yourself or for others. It's important to actually take this type of therapy. What happens when al-hawa overcomes us? Well, it's usually things. What is hawa? Hawas are things that we enjoy, things that we love, things that we find entertainment in. And when does that usually happen? When you are basically having the time, the leisure time, to find that as lovable to you. When you have that leisure time, when you have that free time, that's when you find yourself engaging in al-hawa. So what should I do? 3 things. Number 1, eliminate al-hawa by 1, get yourself busy. How? Register yourself with different areas. Now, here's method number 1. If the person, or if you, any of us, is going through extreme hawa, where even if you were to register them, for example, in a class, and they're not capable of joining that class, they would register, they'll come a day, 2 days, 3 days, and 4 days, that's their max, and they'll drop out. Then in that situation, what gets the hawa weaker? Remember those 2 things, pain and death. Pain and death. Then in that situation, we probably need to visit an ill person in the community. Let's go visit a person that was diagnosed with cancer. Let's go visit a senior home. Let's go visit and really be a visitor, not for 20 minutes or 25 or half an hour, but no, make it longer by perhaps helping out within probably a senior home. Maybe be there, but don't be there and you're scrolling on your phone. No, you gotta right now leave your phone at home, and I want you to focus here. In the beginning, you're going to feel that this is boring, 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 boring. But there's no way that you can grow with your potentials unless you learn that boring is an elementary level still. I want you to overcome the elementary level. When of course, you see the elementary school, just when the doorbell rings, or when, the school bell rings, just when the school bell rings, the kids are, everybody is just screaming out, can't wait to leave. Why? Because they're too bored. Because the most important thing about passing the elementary level is learning how to overcome boredom, is learning how to enjoy and make joy from that boredom, to recognize that there's something to learn. That's the first level. If you're bored, guess what? That's actually what I want you to overcome. I want you to overcome, to learn that you don't always have to seek entertainment, because al-hawa is all about finding and looking for entertainment. You are always looking for a place to endure, a place to enjoy, a place to make you find it fun to be in. You had gotten so used to wanting everything to be fun that if it's not fun, you can't handle it. Right away, you would get up just like a little child would get up. Oh, this is too boring. I can't. And you would find yourself, you can't even breathe, can't even sit, and go out. If you're at that level, what should I do? Those areas that are taking a grip on you, want to remove them aside. Endure boredom by looking at those that faced a lot of pain, and that you could also be trapped in your own body to feel such pain. Looking at the pains of others is going to help you see that what you have right now is somebody else's dream. That way, you'll recognize that if this is somebody else's dream, then I have everything. I should be using this potential for something that is of purpose. That's what you're trying to get to. Your ability to breathe is probably somebody else's dream. Your ability to have just a space to use the bathroom without someone being there, to keep and maintain your dignity, is somebody else's dream. Your ability to swallow and eat is somebody else's dream. Your ability to just focus and listen to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is somebody else's dream. Just to listen. You know, I was in a masjid. They're actually teaching these children that are deaf children how to read the Quran and how to memorize the Quran, even though they're deaf, using sign language. Sign language. And I asked one of them, I said, "What's your dream?" She said, "My dream is to hear the Quran and see what it sounds like." That's somebody else's dream. You look at that. It just lets us find our own selves and find our own potentials. But there's no way that we can find our own potentials if we're just too busy in engaging in all that dopamine and all that entertainment. We definitely need to get at least a recognition to our own potentials that we're really lucky to have. We definitely need to see more of that pain. 2, death. The Prophet ﷺ, Hadith, he said, كنت قد نهيتكم عن زيارة القبور ألا فزوروها فإنها تذكركم بالآخرة. I had forbidden you from visiting the graves at one point, but visit the graves. I would say, ladies, visit the graves. Just read those numbers, those dates on those stones. Just, they may drive through cemeteries with your car. You could just drive through. It doesn't have to be a Muslim cemetery. It can be Muslim. It can be a non-Muslim cemetery. Just drive through it. Just take the time and just look at those numbers. Take the time to see the silence. Take the time to listen to the loudest silence ever. Loud silence? That's an oxymoron, isn't it? Well, I want you to ask yourself. You go into the graveyard and you go into the cemetery. It's silent, indeed. But one thing that's speaking in the loudest words. What is it? There's something that's telling you that this is hadim al-ladhat. This is what will take away and had taken away all that they were enjoying. She was a mother, and that was a doctor, and that was probably a teacher, and the list goes on and on. And they had what you are dreaming of having. But right now, they are dreaming of having what you have. Life. They are dreaming to come back to dunya because they had found وَجَدْنَا أَنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. Because they were right there. They're speaking in the loudest voice. We had discovered that the best thing that you can run after, that you can work on growing and harvesting is really taqwa. That's the best zad. That's the best thing that you could work towards building, expanding on. That's the word, that's the best thing that you can get. That's the most important thing that you really need to run after. That's what Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he went to a gravesite and he said, what do you think they're saying? What do you think they would, if any of them were to come out and tell us anything, what do you think it would say? He said, I think they would say, وَجَدْنَا أَنَّ خَيْرَ زَادِ التَّقْوَى. We had found that the best thing to increase in is taqwa. Taking the moment to see these is really that therapy for those that are struggling with hawa. Why is hawa? And why is that area a dangerous thing that the Quran was always emphasizing on? Why is it emphasizing on that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون. And then we had made you on a specific paradigm, on a specific path, on a specific channel. The word Sharia, it's a channel. Because when you're looking at the word Sharia, it actually comes from Shara'a. It's a channel. It's a stream. And this stream is a stream to take you into where? Into on a great matter, on a matter that is magnificent. It's basically to lead you, to sail you towards what? Well, towards the purpose that preceded your existence. Your responsibility. So follow that channel. Don't go away from it. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And don't follow the whims of those that don't even recognize that there was a channel, that there was a purpose that preceded your existence, that there was an area to sail to, which is Jannah. You look at that. Two things to find in this area. One, it's a ja'alnaka. We made you on this sharia, on this channel. You could either choose the channel or what you will find yourself. If you don't choose this channel, you're going to find yourself وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. don't follow those that would basically get into such hawa, into such entertainment, into just their own whims without them even knowing that they were actually created for a purpose. When you look at that, you would just recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that the main obstacle to you being on the Sharia is usually friendship. It's the people. Oh, you can nearly.
Yeah, if you can be louder, that would be great, inshallah.
Yeah, Allah. Oh dear. Oh, that's really sad. Let me see what I could do.
We've managed to hear you. Don't worry. It's not that I'm just hearing you on full volume, but you're clear. But if you can
Okay.
increase
But
the
it's
volume, that's good.
extremely low.
Yes, it's
Let me see what I could do. Okay. I think I managed to get it. Hold on, let's see. Oh, no, not this one. Oh, sorry about that.
I guess because you speak with Sakina.
It should still be louder. I don't know if this is at all getting everything in place. I don't know what to do. I'll inshallah use a different.
Yeah, I would say try to get a headset. That's one of the recommendations that people had. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's the headset, Nora. I really think it's. I remember seeing it one time. Hold on. Oh dear. Let me see. I'm going to use this one. Let's see this one. Is this at all better? I don't know what to do.
It is a little bit better.
It is a little bit better. La ilaha illallah. Okay. We'll have to figure this one out for sure. Inshallah, I'll work on it some other time. And I remember seeing it somewhere. I'll try to speak up, inshallah. That's all right. So inshallah, hopefully I can speak up louder, and hopefully that would be better. I definitely. Definitely, I need to see some other time, inshallah, and see what I could do. Let's go like this, and perhaps can advanced and I'll try, inshallah, as much as I can. Allahul Musta'an. I am so sorry, everyone. I try. Sometimes this is an issue that we continuously, even though on my side, it basically, on my end, it says that it's 100% and everything is fine. but I definitely see that everyone is telling me that no, it's not 100%. So, well, inshallah, you can hear me 100%? Okay, alhamdulillah. So I guess I'll continue, inshallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Let's continue, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma. Okay, let's continue. So, ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون. I want you to look at this one. This is key because if it's saying that ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر, we had made you on a sharia. And therefore, when you would see فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون, that's basically telling us that the main obstacle and what usually acts as that kind of like the brakes, you're accelerating and trying to get to a certain destination, but there's something else that starts, I guess, just hitting the brakes while you're trying to drive through something. You're trying to go down the stream of Sharia, because the word Sharia actually means a stream. Remember that? It means a channel, it means a stream. You're trying to go toward that. You're trying to sail that way, but then you've got different friends that'll probably be surrounding you, and they'll be either slamming on the brakes or probably using your steering wheel to take you somewhere else. And this is key because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting us know that one of the main things that you really need to change in order to help you recognize and go towards that direction, you need to make sure that you're the one that's controlling that steering wheel and it's not your friends. And even when it comes to the speed, we need to make sure that you recognize that you're going the right direction with the right speed and definitely using the right focus in order to follow the map and not get carried away with things. So that's why he's on ala sharia. There's a specific path. It's not a path that you choose, but it's a path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had chosen. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that chooses the path and He gives you the guidance to follow that path. That's why Prophet Dawood, even if it's a prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, يا داود إنا جعلناك خليفة في الأرض فاحكم بين الناس بالحق ولا تتبع الهوى فيضلك عن سبيل الله. O Dawood, we had made you a leader on earth. فاحكم بين الناس بالحق. So when you rule amongst people, when you judge between people, you judge by truth. ولا تتبع الهوى. And do not follow al-hawa. Here's the key word. Do not follow your own whims. فَيُضِلَّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Or else it will misguide you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want you to see here, you got Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. He's a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But despite that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling him, يَا دَاوُدُ إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاكَ خَلِيفَةً فِي الْأَرْضِ. I want you to look at this one because he was telling him, before telling him to follow the path, he was telling him, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاكَ خَلِيفَةً. You're a khalifa right now. You are a person that has the potentials to do something. You were given certain potentials, so use them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What should I use them for? How do I use them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In what ways? He said, فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ. Now, he was a khalifa, he was a leader, he was a political leader, he was a king, he was a prophet, he basically was a khalifa, let's say at the highest level of khilafah. فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ. When you judge, when you rule amongst people, when you take that position to govern, you got to make sure that you're following the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the truth. وَلَا تَتَّبِعِ الْهَوَى. what's the key thing? What's the most thing that can slow you down? Don't follow your whims. There are certain things that make you feel good about yourself. I know it doesn't feel good to feel guilty. It doesn't feel good to feel guilty. There's no doubt about that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, well, don't always be in search of what would make you feel good. Sometimes you gotta put yourself to the level of your extreme. Challenge yourself. ولا تتبع الهوى, because if you don't challenge yourself, then you're following your hawa. فيضلك عن سبيل الله. And it will misguide you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is out there to get us away from the right path? What is al-hawa consistent of? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us those key things that are actually most lovable to us. And He said, زُيَّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث. Those are the key things that basically make hawa. What is it? It was beautified to people the love of shahawat, the love of lust, whether from women, children, the different things that you can pile up of gold and silver, and different things that you can probably have from, yes, here it was talking about al-khayl al-musawwama, speaking about horses, but definitely during our times, it's not horses, it's basically different means of transportation, because it makes us feel that we're gliding in spaces and times. وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ. الأنعام, they used to be things, well, الأنعام, the different, perhaps sheep and cows and all the different things that were considered wealth at the time. Today, it's basically all the different things that resemble wealth. Why? Because it makes us get a sense that we control everything around us. We control this dunya, and therefore, you could see part of it makes us feel that we're controlling what makes us feel good. So even with women, it's for women, definitely not حب شهوات من النساء. For women, it's حب شهوات من الرجال. Basically, for women, it's wanting to let men know that she's attractive. It's wanting her body appear at least somehow attractive to those that, even women, she wants to even appear attractive even amongst women, in order to somehow let her feel that, yes, she's getting the status of being good looking. And it's really funny how I had seen that in school, which is pretty much the area that, of course, I was growing up in school. It was elementary, secondary, the list goes on and on, college, etc. It's really funny how even girls, they would give more attention to beautiful girls. They would be the celebrities. And I don't understand it. To be honest, I don't understand it at all. Why the appearance, and even for girls, I can understand a man and what he wants to get to, but even girls give more attention to beautiful girls. I don't understand why. And I don't understand the race. I don't understand why the competition amongst girls to appear at a certain level of attraction. But subhanallah, it's a fitna where many girls are engaging in this type of competition in looking more attractive, and the list goes on, and what words you can use to mean attraction. But then it's also, to me, confusing. We would go to these weddings and it's all girls, but the girls are dressed in exotic clothes, even in front of girls. So I'm just confused. What are you trying to display? You're dressed in a certain way. What are you trying to display? In why? It's اتباع الهوى. It's اتباع الهوى. Subhanallah. It's all thinking that by somehow appearing in a certain way, that somehow it was going to elevate their status. الهوى is basically أرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه. الهوى could be a god, a deity that's misguiding people without them realizing. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَلَوْ اتَّبَعَ الْحَقُّ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ لَفَسَدَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَا فِيهِنْ. If truth was following their whims, it would have actually destructed the skies, the earth, and everything in the world. Why? Because whims do not get you to any construction. Whims only have one channel and only have one destination, which is destruction. Just look at this one. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, وَلَوِ اتَّبَعَ الْحَقُّ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ لَفَسَدَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ, that's basically telling us Hawa only goes one direction, not construction, but deconstruction. It will just take away their ability to recognize the purpose that preceded their existence and that they have to go towards it. And that's why you would see civilizations were not actually built on entertainment. It's quite funny that, well, I mean, I don't mean by funny that it's something to laugh about, but Ibn Khaldun actually mentions that nations, when they start growing within, I guess, their ability to build a civilization, the first thing that they would notice is that the destruction that they're in. That acts as the motivation that they have to grow. Perhaps maybe illness rates going up, perhaps maybe the rates of corruption, the rates of perhaps poverty rates, etc. The different rates of how this or that particular country is going through some level of corruption. It isn't until the society wakes up to recognize the corruption that they would then realize that the amount of pain, if we do not face it, it will come after us to even pain that is far worse. So you could see civilizations, because of that pain that they want to get rid of, that's what will motivate them to work towards perhaps improving their education system, perhaps improving their transportation system, maybe communication system, maybe medical system, maybe it's a health system, whatever it is, all those different systems. Then you would see that this civilization is growing towards that. When they recognize the pain. And this is key. You would not be capable of recognizing that you need to get out of your hawa unless you take the moment to recognize that the corruption that you are in is a result of al-hawa. This is key, is a result of al-hawa. Why wasn't the marriage working? I want you to look at al-hawa. Was it yours or your husband's? Whose hawa? Was it yours or your husband? Where did it go wrong? I want you to look at your education, the kids' education. What is going wrong here? Whose hawa? Are you just scrolling on your phone? What's going on? I want you to look at their health. Whose hawa? Are you just wanting to probably just find fast foods and just cook something and just, hey, get something frozen, stick it in the oven, and just basically, hey, now dinner is served, when you just did nothing but get something from those freezers and just cook it. What you would realize or not realize is, hey, your children probably down with their health, anemic, diabetic, they're overeating the wrong foods, and etc. What's going on? That's the corruption right there. You found it a lot easier for you to just, hey, get something that is frozen and just stick it in the oven, or probably just dip it in the oil. It was way faster than, hey, I don't have to get into all the hassle of doing the work and cooking and all of that. It's a lot easier. Then what do we get? We get what happened. Whenever you would get, whether it's within your home or whether it's within a country, if you would see corruption, that means that society was engaging in hawa. In order to get out of the corruption, you need to leave al-hawa. Simple as that. You need to leave al-hawa. But many will start trying to figure out how to get out of the corruption by getting into more hawa, because they don't want to leave their hawa. So they'll start wanting to keep their hawa and find another way to go around it, because they don't want to give up on their hawa. It's like, no, don't tell me that I have to exercise. Tell me a different thing. I need a magic pill. I need something that basically can get me being healthy, being in shape, but don't tell me anything that I have to fight my hawa. No. I want to eat as I want. I want to be as lazy as I want to be. And I also want to sleep. So what do we get? Boom. What do we? It's hawa. There's no way. You have to basically fight your hawa to get things right. Same thing. There's no way that you can grow up with your deen if you don't give up on your hawa. You need to give up on some of your friends. You need to give up on some of probably the different habits that you're engaging in. Maybe you need to give up on your phone even. You probably need to give up perhaps on the lifestyle that you're living. Do you really have to go every single day, get your coffee and get your I don't know, your dessert with it, and every single day that you basically have to listen to this music? And there's no way. If you stay within that hawa, then to say, I'll do more qiyam al-layl, you're not going to be capable of doing that. You're probably going to do it a day, 2, 3, 4, 5, then you're going to fail. You know why? Because when you jump, you don't jump by just flying up. That's impossible. I'm sorry. Even if you put a cape on, it's not going to work. What are you supposed to do to go up? You got to duck down, push against your gravity, your own gravity, to go up. that's the way it goes. You can't just, I know, Clark ruined it for us. We thought that we could somehow just put our hand up and boom, right there, the cape will do the job. That's not reality. And that's the same thing. The Prophet ﷺ in the Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ma amartukum bihi fa'tu minhu mastata'tum." What I ordered you to do as much as you can. وَمَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. And what I ordered you to leave instantly. Why? Because to go up, you've got a certain potential, a certain ability to go up. But what I ordered you to leave instantly, because that's going to be a gravity that's going to be acting as this weight that's going to slow you down from being capable of going up. So what should I do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, أولئك الذين طبع الله على قلوبهم واتبعوا أهواءهم. Those are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had stamped on their hearts, and they had followed their whims. What happened? اتبعوا أهواءهم. They followed their whims, and the conclusion, their hearts were completely sealed, and they weren't even capable of seeing the light. So what should we do? Well, you need to take that moment to basically take and recognize that there's an illness that you really have to fight. The Prophet ﷺ, look at this hadith. How did we get into طبع الله على قلوبهم? How did their hearts seal? Sealed on what? Well, the Prophet ﷺ explains this one. He said, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ شَهَوَاتُ الْغَيِّ فِي بُطُونِكُمْ وَفُرُوجِكُمْ وَمُضِلَّاتِ الْهَوَى. Look at this hadith. And you could see al-Haythami right there. He basically said, رِجَالُهُ رِجَالُ الصَّحِيحِ. That the chain of narration is basically the same chain of narration for this hadith Abu Baraza as the same chain of narration for Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Okay, let's see. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? The most thing that I fear for you in shahawat al-ghayb, the different things that will take you to the extremes of your own shahwat, the extremes of your own lusts. Number one, fi butunikum, what you eat. If you are excessive in your food intake, then in that situation, that's going to be feeding your lust. If that feeding your lust is basically starting to control over you, then that's what's going to start then, hey, it's eating, and basically that lust, the sexual desire. وَمُضِلَّاتِ الْهَوَى. What is مُضِلَّاتِ الْهَوَى? They're the delusions that would take away our lust and giving us a delusion that if you do this and this is what you'll get. So, what should I do? The Prophet ﷺ had basically given us the key. What are the different things that would destruct us? He said, ثَلَاثَةٌ مُنْجِيَاتٌ. There are three things that would give you that salvation or that protection. One, خشية الله تعالى في السر والعلن or والعلانية. It's basically having the khashya, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during those private moments or during those moments when you're in public. You're taking, but how do we get there? That's the key. How do we get there? There's no way that you can have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taking the moment to do talab al-ilm. We're going to continue. I know we still didn't continue and finish Asma Allah al-Husna. We're going to continue that, inshallah. I guess we got carried away with the pearls, but we're going to continue, inshallah, Asma Allah al-Husna. Wal-adl fi al-rida wal-ghadab. And when you will be just, what is al-adl? Al-adl is just or justice. But when you're speaking about justice, you would usually think of it as only social justice. But al-adl is actually taking something within a level of moderation. A level of moderation, whether you're in a moment of content, a moment of happiness, or whether you were angry. And this is key. When we're speaking about justice, you're speaking about moderation. You're speaking about, well, how do I know if something is fair or not? Well, there's no way that you could know if something is fair or whether something is based on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless you take the moment to learn. Here it is again. Unless you take the moment to learn Islam itself, unless you take the moment to recognize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had considered as justice. Because if you don't know what justice is, there's no way that you can follow it. وَالْقَصْدُ فِي الْفَقْرِ وَالْغِنَى. What is al-qasd? Al-qasd is different than al-adl. Al-adl is more justice. Al-qasd is more moderation. Al-qasd fi al-faqr wal-ghina. Al-qasd could also mean to go to your destination. But this isn't telling you to go to your destination. This is actually telling you to live in moderation, in consumption, whether you are poor and basically not even having that abundance in the resources, or whether you were rich. It's important to learn how to live in that moderation and not to let things take you into excessive consumption. وَثَلَاثَةٌ مُهْلِكَاتٌ. And three things, I want you, let's repeat these. Three munjiyat. Three things will basically get you into salvation, will get you in that area where they're basically preserving you, protecting you, keeping you away from hellfire. One, having the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during private and public. Two, justice during content moments and happy moments and during your anger. Three, moderation in the way that you would consume, whether you had the money during your time of probably richness or whether you were living in poverty. You were doing this main thing, which is keeping that moderation in the way that you would consume this dunya. The more you would consume from dunya, whether that meant food, clothes, the shopping that you would do, whatever it is, the more it takes away from your akhirah. Three, ثلاثة مهلكات. Three things are going to be things that will deconstruct, are things that would take you into basically going the wrong area. It would take away your energy. Number one, hawan muttaba. It's a certain desire that you would probably follow and it would misguide you. Two, shuhun muta'a. Greed that you don't want to give in. Maybe shuhun muta'a, you don't want to put in this time to seek aim. Sure. What do you want? What do you prefer doing? You want to keep that time to just keep it for hawa. That's sure. It could be sure in the person not wanting to spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a type of sure. It could also be another type of sure that a certain potential. You don't want to put it in the right place. When we're speaking about potentials, we're not just usually الشح is investing in money, whether it's donating, sharing, but الشح is more comprehensive than money. It's any potential that you might have, any potential. If you're not putting it in its place, that's shuh. If you're not putting it where it belongs, that's shuh. You got the money. If you don't put it where it belongs, that's shuh. If you've got perhaps the knowledge, you're not putting it where it belongs, that's shuh. You've got the time, you're not using it and putting it where it belongs, that's shuh. You probably have the body power, you're not using it to get you to what you need to get to, that's shuh. But if that's controlling you and you're letting those areas control you, then that's going to be a key destructor. إعجاب المرء بنفسه. What can also lead to that halak? إعجاب المرء بنفسه. What is إعجاب المرء بنفسه? When a person is so arrogant that they are so mesmerized with themselves. You're so smart. You're so strong. You're so good. Everything that you do is so good. What is that? That's basically the person himself or herself. They're so arrogant. I know sometimes we might say it, some might say it as being sarcastic and say, see, I did it. I'm so good. We're not talking about those sarcastic moments. Okay. We're talking about those moments when a person is serious about it. If you have the ilm, know فوق كل ذي علم عليم. Beyond every single scholar, there's a alim, whether it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or whether there's another scholar that would basically overcome their abilities. And if you would think that you're probably good at this or that, remember, there's someone else that's probably doing a better job than you. إعجاب المرء بنفسه. Whenever you're so arrogant to really recognize your weaknesses, recognize your areas of failure, then without you realizing, you're basically going to lead yourself from being good at something to probably regressing in different ways to improve. And this is key. Whenever you would reach perhaps a level of completion, and this happens often, somebody might, while they didn't work on perhaps getting to the mastery level, once they get to, while they're not there yet, they're putting all the effort to get there. And once they get there, everything, إذا ما تم, what's going to happen? نقصان. Once they get to the completion, that's when they start regressing. They probably memorize the Quran, but once they memorize the Quran, now they're starting to forget it. Here we go. But while they were working on it to memorize it, what happened? They were growing. Same thing. She wanted to wear the hijab. Once she wore the hijab, she thought, okay, I'm done. And then she'll start wondering, well, before I wore the hijab, I was actually improving in my iman. But once I wore my hijab, I felt I started losing my iman. And this happens often. What many don't realize is that when you wear the hijab or you wear the niqab, and many would come to me and say, before I wore the niqab, I was actually feeling that I was better in my deen than after wearing the niqab. Once I wore the niqab, I started losing my deen. I don't feel the power anymore. I said, well, that's because you thought that was going to be the final destination. You didn't recognize that that's one of the destinations. Niqab is not the final destination. Neither is memorizing the Quran. Neither is a PhD in Islamic studies. Neither is probably continuing your degree in Islamic studies, probably Jannah Institute or whatever institute you're studying in. That was supposed to be one of the destinations, not the final one. Once you treat it like it's the final destination, then you're going to start regressing because you're not working on improving and going up. Because you're going to think that, okay, I'm done. No more plans to go up. What happened? That's إعجاب المرء بنفسه. You thought, okay, I'm done. I wore my hijab. I wore my niqab. I got my degree. You thought that that was it. That's the arrogance. إعجاب المرء بنفسه. You thought, I'm done. You didn't recognize that that's a station that was one of the stations that was supposed to let you go farther up and not the other way around. But once you fall in this إعجاب المرء بنفسه, that arrogance, when a person feels good about themselves, that's when you want to be concerned. What did I do wrong? How was I supposed to go up? So the Prophet ﷺ, he basically said, أفضل الجهاد أن يجاهد الرجل نفسه وهواه. The best jihad that one can do is basically when one is battling their own hawa, their own nafs. What's in nafs? In nafs is at different kinds. There's one part that's basically part of every single nafs. What do we do? Well, it's basically telling you and misguiding you and basically directing you towards a certain level of just wanting you to just find joy. So in jihad, in nafs, is basically in nafs ammara bis-su'. In nafs ammara bis-su'. What is in nafs al-ammara bis-su'? It's basically part of your nafs that it orders you to go towards just joy. There's the other type of nafs al-lawama. You would basically feel that, why did I do this wrong thing? Well, I shouldn't have done it. It just feels bad. But the guilt feeling is definitely not a good feeling. So some will use that in nafs al-lawama in order to improve, and others will run away from this nafs al-lawama and basically avoid feeling guilty at all. And there's a nafs al-mutma'inna. Nafs al-mutma'inna is basically that nafs that's feeling a certain level of tranquility, a certain level, but there's no way to feel the tranquility unless your brain is a level of stability, your heart is a level of stability, your spirituality is a level at a level of spirituality, and that's in order to get to al-jihad, jihad al-rajuli bi nafsihi, or jihad al-rajuli nafsahu, when a person is basically doing that jihad, doing that battling, and battling themselves to make sure that they go on the right path. So what's the most important thing? How do we fight all of that? A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, جئت أسألك عن الهوى فقال المرء مع من أحب. He said, I had come to ask you about al-hawa. It's like you were always talking about al-hawa, and you're always basically cautioning us from hawa. And what is that? So the Prophet ﷺ just said it in just 4 words. Al-mar'u ma'man ahab. You are with whom you love. In other words, he didn't go in definitions of what hawa is and give long lectures. No. He just said, well, you want to control your hawa? Control who you're with. Control who you love. Control who you're hanging out with. And that was basically the lesson the Prophet ﷺ wanted to give. You want to work on your hawa? Simple. Change the group that you're with. I'm not saying isolation, because there's a fitna in isolation as well. But I would say maybe change the people that you're with. Maybe the friends. Remove friend A, B, C from your life and just replace them with perhaps another group of friends. But those group of friends are boring. In the beginning, remember what we said in the beginning. It feels boring in the beginning because you're probably at an elementary level. You need to learn how to go up that boredom and past the boredom and find in that moment entertainment. So just take the moment to be around these new friends that are probably maybe memorizing the Quran, maybe working on their Islam, etc. You need to go up with that one. Even if they're boring, yes, remember, you're trying to do jihad of the nafs. Change your friends. You'll find this light. Don't cover your eyes to not see the light. Sometimes it's just in the beginning, but then it isn't until your eyes are adjusting to light, they'll give the right dilation that is important to help you see what is haqq and what is batil. So I know I have all these hadith and ayat right there. I do have them for you in English right there. So inshallah, Monday, well, not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, I believe, we're going to talk about preserving oneself from the different misconceptions in order to look at the different ways of how we can gain الثبات في الدين. So we're just basically trying to go up these things, and where what actually acts as an obstacle from going up our deen. We talked about extremism, and now we're talking about the following desires. So any questions, or even I'd love to hear what all of you are saying and what you would like to probably encourage me, or probably correct me and criticize me of something. I'd love to hear it. I'm still a human being. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself if you want. Go ahead,
Can I-
Susan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you talked about arrogance as one of the things that would lead us away from, would lead us towards hellfire. It's amazing. This is something I found. My granddaughter goes to an Islamic school, and there she was honored by something that she had done. And I was surprised at the long speech that was going on about, what she'd done. And there she was standing listening to it. And I was just discussing it with my daughter, and I said, this is something that is encouraging one to feel conceited. I don't think that this should be something that should be going on. Like, okay, a little child who's 6 years old, hearing so much about what she's done to achieve a small goal. So, even the way we are now educated in our schools, in the Western system at least, I feel that there's too much of a reward for the little we do, and instead it should be the other way around, to encourage one not to be arrogant. So I was just looking at how, from the grassroots level, how this is going up and really messing with our understanding, even on the Dini perspective. So
Right.
that's
I agree with that. Absolutely agree. I think this, not only the education system, but I think the Western system in general, I think is always about, well, reward the person for even if it's something that is so little. It's always, well, you got to tell me of how good I was. You got to encourage me. You got to, oh, you were doing an outstanding job. I think we're hearing so much, and it's not just rewards and materialistic rewards, but I think I agree with you that compliments, I think giving those, let's say the excessiveness and compliments is definitely creating a generation that thinks that they always have to be complimented, and whenever they're criticized, they'll go into, well, I'm right now depressed, it's a mental health, etc. And I think it's the wrong parenting system, education system, and the list goes on, that once they get into the actual system, get into their 20s, get into work, get into parenting, etc. And yesterday I was actually discussing this with my husband, and I said, it's not just the women, it's also the men themselves. We are seeing our patience level had really dropped by far, and really dropped, and we're seeing men less masculine. We're seeing women that are also, I would say, less capable of taking on responsibilities as mothers, as wives, etc., and thinking that, oh, she has to be masculine, so they're acting masculine in the areas that basically were not designed for them. But then when it comes to the role that they are supposed to be taking as mothers, wives, etc., that's when I can't handle this. This is far beyond. Why am I supposed to be doing this, etc.? And then it's trying to find another path to make a hero of themselves. And then we would have two types. We would have certain people that are living the psychology of victimization, basically wanting to be victims, and part of them are finding, I guess, some form of endurance, some form of happiness, or some form of patting them on the back by continuously saying, hey, I'm a victim, this is what I went through. And it's a method that the society is encouraging you in, basically somehow letting it out. And many are finding, one, through this type of, I guess, this type of ventilization as a way of finding different empathizers. So it's like just looking for people to sympathize with them, just people to just make them feel that, yes, you know what, you really deserve more. You deserve all of this, and what you don't deserve all of this, or you deserve, and then they would basically find that, hey, I can get what I want by displaying that I was a victim of abuse, that I was a victim of some kind of the word right now, I was in a toxic relationship. Everybody is talking about how they were somehow involved in a toxic relationship. And you start wondering, well, who's the toxic person here if everybody is a victim of a toxic relationship? Who's the toxic person here? Everybody is talking about, it's the era where everybody wants to say that they're victims. And then you've got another group who would also say that they're victims, but they want to speak about how, how they were going through an abusive relationship. That's the word everybody is using, abusive relationship. They were victims. This person that was basically, again, a narcissist that they were dealing with, etc. And then they were basically heroes. So then it's trying to display ourselves as heroes by saying that we were victims, and or displaying ourselves as victims and always victims in order to gain some form of entitlement, because, hey, I'm a victim, you have to sympathize with me. And what we're saying is that really that's a result of this common culture that we're living in, letting them feel that, you know what, you don't have to get challenged. You have to be rewarded for whatever you're doing. People have to appreciate you. You have to, even for a little effort that you might put in, you have to get a reward, whether it's a treat, whether it's a sticker, whether it's people praising you. People have to be there to always acknowledge that, and people always have to voice it. And then once they grow older, if they don't get this compliment, that's when we don't realize that they don't get this compliment. That's when they go into depression. I'm not getting what I used to get. People know
how does that relate?
Appreciate.
How does that relate to the hadith about that women lack the determination You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that mean that women need more encouragement because of that lack in determination?
That hadith is irrelevant to this one, Nora, but I'm trying to see how you are connecting this one with that. But if we were to actually get a hadith within this context, I would probably get the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ had actually said, I had seen majority of those that are dwelling in hellfire were women, تكثرن اللعن وتكفرن العشير. You would engage in constant damnation of things, and takfurna al-ashir, and you would deny the gratitude that someone has given you. I would relate more to that because, of course, it comes with that it's seeking some form of appreciation, whether it's appreciating others and what they had contributed in your life, instead of feeling like a victim, or whether it's on the other side, it's constant damnation of things. In other words, you're constantly complaining because you're always feeling that you're not getting enough and that you don't have to invest in your potentials and that someone else is supposed to invest in you. And that you always feel somehow that you're weak and it's somebody else's responsibility, it's someone else's fault. We don't see the same thing in boys because the society is usually telling a boy, hey, if you're a man, this is what you need to do. If you're a man, you need to, defend yourself. You need to be the one that's the breadwinner. You need to defend this. But the girls were always teaching them that she's a princess. In a princess, well, she's looking for the prince to basically save her from, whomever. Okay. And therefore she's always a victim. Well, she's a princess, therefore she's a victim, therefore someone else is supposed to do the job. So she's always complaining that, hey, it's the society that wronged her. It's her mother that was abusive. It's her father that was abusive. It was her brothers that were always, I don't know, making fun of her. They didn't do the job in protecting her. They didn't do the job in doing all of this. It's basically the society that we're living in. So wait a minute, but the Prophet ﷺ was actually talking to the women that weren't living in our society, but he was still saying that they had this type of personality as well, in that they were living this. Is it our own psychology of sometimes feeling weaker, sometimes feeling that we have the tendency, hormonal, etc., that doesn't give us a justification? Because that is also hawa that we have to control. Remember, we also, as human beings, definitely will find some level of joy, some level of this, and engaging in all the different types of muharramat. All the different types of muharramat, they're basically right there, hot spots that would be attractive, that, hey, you're going to find some joy in that. They're all hot spots for every single one of us. No one can say it's not a hot spot. It's a place of fitna. But why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warn us from that hot spot? If it's a hot spot, well, he's warning you because that may seem like a hot spot for a certain time, but that hot spot is leading you to Jahannam. You would click on it, click on it, click on it. It would kind of feel good that, oh, it's actually working. It's a stimulant. But once this stimulant and you're getting used to the stimuli, what happens? You don't recognize that the more you keep on pressing that hotspot, it's basically eventually going to press to a point where it's going to suck you in, where? Into hellfire. And that's the thing. So for women, the hadith that you were talking about, Nora, that lack of determination, or naqsat aql wa deen, I mean, you can probably relate it. I would love to hear, the sisters and how they could, I guess, see, a certain inspiration in this hadith in terms of women when we're speaking about, well, lacking determination. Is it lacking determination to do something? Nuqsan al-aql, or is it lacking determination to perhaps be consistent? What does it really, how does it really fall within all this context? We definitely, as women, we definitely do see that we have more consistency in probably doing housework. We're constantly doing the same exact thing. If you were to give it to the man, he'll definitely, I guess, lose his temper right away. And we're doing the same cleaning every single day. We're doing the same, I guess, cooking every single day, same thing. And we're way more patient than the man in that. Way more patient. Is it enough? So I'm not here, you could say you're like, okay, well, you just a few seconds ago, you were really slapping us and give us left and right. I'm not slapping. When the Prophet ﷺ had said what he had said, he wasn't slapping us. He was giving us this awareness to let us know certain weaknesses that we may have, whether it's a result of hormones or whether it's a result of our anatomy, whatever it is that's making this happen. It doesn't justify, because we are still mukallafin. We're still held accountable for whatever choices we are making. So we may lack aql, that determination, but it doesn't mean we lack the intelligence. We know and we're capable of recognizing right and wrong, but we have to put in an effort to stay consistent within our deen. We could be consistent within other things, but within our deen, that's why I said naqsatu aqlin wa deen. He was trying to, you got to emphasize that area. When it comes to your religion, you got to really work on that, because there are certain things probably built within us, maybe, who knows? Maybe. But at the end is that we are being held accountable for our will. Where is your will? How do you channel your will towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's the key thing. How do you channel your will? Where are you channeling it to? That's the key. Even if your potentials may not get you to the destination that you probably had hoped to get to, and إنما الأعمال بالنيات. All your actions are determined based on the intention / the will that you invest into getting to Jannah. Even if you don't get there, that is not Jannah, but get to probably what you had hoped for, memorize the Quran, or probably get a degree in Islamic studies, or probably, a certain level. You probably didn't get there, but at least you had invested an amount of effort and intention to get there. So just work on that. Did I answer it, or was I really off? I'll probably
I think you answered it because we were talking about tarbiyah with kids.
Okay.
Right? And so I just thought that maybe because of this hadith, that we should encourage our girls more than boys, like in comparison. And we're talking about people complaining and all the, like, you know what you said, right?
I never thought about that. I love the way you put it. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I just wondered if possibly these women are lacking the because if we want to be firm in our deen, it helps if someone is encouraging, right? And that kind of ties it to your friends too. But it might just be that women need that support
I love that.
in the deen.
I absolutely love that, because I must admit, if you were to examine the different, I would say, speakers out there, the speakers that are speaking and encouraging women, And I would say giving them the motivation and giving them, I can think of Aisha Prime, I could think of Tamra Gray, always giving them that empowerment. They definitely get a better, I would say, a better audience, a more engaged audience. I definitely see that. But here's one thing that I worry about. What I worry about exaggerating in such motivation and patting on the back, let's call it that way. What I worry about that is thinking that you have to get it all the time. And there's no way that you're going to get it all the time. That's one worry. Number two is that, you could see the Prophet ﷺ wasn't using that method all the time. He did use it one time, and he was telling the women, I had not seen ناقصة عقل ودين أذهب بقلوب ذوي الألباب منكن. You're capable of, kind of like getting a control over the best of the guys, the smartest of men, but you know exactly how to do that job that other men are not capable of doing. You know how to get your voice in that man's life, and that other men were not capable of doing. You could see that, but I think in moderation is important.
Yeah,
But
I
not,
agree.
I think that's extremely important. Encourage, but not to the level of you're,
Spoon
blowing up.
feeding. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or
You don't want to
spoiling.
blow up. Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to exaggerate and really blow up their arrogance and think like, yeah. And because feminism, that's what feminism wanted to do. Feminism
Yeah. Subhanallah.
wanted to blow up their, I guess, their arrogance and ladies, it's all the women and etc. And then it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You really, it's kind of like you really got off track here. No, you misunderstood it, girl. Come back. We know you're encouraged, but I want you to come back. You're losing it right there. And that's what's happening right now with feminism. They definitely, I mean, you hear the feminist rhetoric. You're right there, and you're like, yeah, I can really go up that ceiling. And you really get so energized that you really want to break that sky and all of that. You're really like, yeah, baby, and you're right there feeling over energized. So I think it's that, moderation. It's like, okay, get into that energy and get into that, I would say, that encouragement, but don't expect it to be there all the time. We have to also see the situation on ground and what's really happening, because the Prophet ﷺ, when he would tell them, hey ladies, I'd actually seen hellfire, and most of those that are in hellfire were actually women. I just want you to just know
But
that.
he told us something positive, which was to give sadaqah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's not like, oh, you're damned to hell. Excuse me for saying that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So he gave us something positive to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
The encouragement.
Absolutely. So it's the encouragement's like, okay, yes, you do recognize, certain weaknesses, but I also want you to recognize the different ways to, I guess, enhance, enforce, and empower that weakness. So don't feel that this weakness is going to overcome you, but I want you in order to, I guess, overcome such weakness. And that's the same thing. So it's not necessarily displaying the weakness to tell you, hey, you're doomed to hell. There's no option, just go to hell.
Yeah.
That's not what the hadith is saying. The
So
hadith is saying,
a sister was asking, what advice do you have? How we can be more consistent in the deen?
Seeking ilm is key. Why seeking ilm? So with seeking ilm, you're actually getting a number of different keys. Number one, you're consistent. You're taking in that consistency to keep up with it. That's number one. And everything in Islam is all about consistency. You look at Salah. Well, I already prayed that, but no, there's a consistency. I want you to do Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, but I've done it yesterday. No, that consistency. Same thing with Ramadan. Same thing with every single dhikr, etc. There's the consistency. The consistency is key to keeping that level of commitment. That's number one. Number two, seeking ilm, not only is there consistency, but it's also redirecting your vision. Redirecting your vision from seeing and looking at dunya to looking at akhirah. This is key. Seeking ilm also changes your platforms. It basically changes the platforms of friends, changing the platforms of, I guess, the society, the environment that you're around, you're surrounding yourself with. So seeking ilm, it's not just an issue of, yeah, well, here it is, I got this information. No, it's an issue of giving you the consistency, changing your friends, redirecting your vision. And number four, it's growing your heart and expanding your heart in your ability to see light. And it's basically letting you feel that light. It's connecting with the salihin. It's connecting with the ulama. There's no way that you can get to connect with the ulama and with the salihin if you don't connect with the legacy that they had left behind. That's it. So seeking ilm is key to helping you redirect yourself. That's key. That's the secret. If you want to get all of that, I would say, here's what I want you to do. You gotta be a part of, I don't know, Gems of Light, Jannah Institute, Medina, guidance, whatever it is. I want you to consider connecting yourself. Or if it's at the masjid, etc., you gotta right now connect yourself with some kind of a program to learn your Islam. This is important. You got to put that. And there are free things out there. There are many free things out there. Join Gems of Light. Alhamdulillah. Most of our programs are free. Just join. And inshallah, with that consistency, with that seeking ilm, you're redirecting your focus, redirecting your friends, you're regrouping your circles, regrouping your potentials, and then you're going to find yourself becoming a different person. I hope I answered that one. This is it. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نستغفرك ونتوب إليك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت. We'll see you all the day after tomorrow.
Inshallah.
There's a time
Jazakallah
change.
khair.
There'll be a
Right.
time change, I think so.
Oh,
The time,
yeah.
so just remember
Oh.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's supposed to be Sunday. What time?
I think the clocks are moving forward, right? So
No, I think backwards.
sorry,
Back.
backwards. Sorry. They're moving backwards, so it's